Hey, while you relax and watch this deep earwax removal, let me take you back to a time when medicine looked very, very different. A time of herbal tonics, bloodletting, and whispered prayers. A time of plague masks, leeches, and strange, smoky rituals. This story begins in the Middle Ages, a world of flickering torchlight, handwritten scrolls, and cold stone rooms filled with strange scents in this world. If your ear began to hurt, if your hearing dulled, if your balance was off, or your head throbbed, you might be taken to a doctor, or a barber, or an apothecary with more faith than training. And there, you might be told that your ear was too wet inside, or worse, that spirits had entered through the ear canal and were wreaking havoc in your brain. And the solution? They would light dried herbs, usually sage, mugwort, or even tobacco. Let the smoke build up in a clay bowl and gently blow it into your ear, not to warm it, not to perfume it, but to chase out the evil inside. The belief was simple but chilling. They thought your body was made of 4 fluids or humors: blood, phlegm, yellow, bile. Too much moisture, too much cold, too much bad air in one spot, you'd get sick, and the ear dark, narrow. Unseen was the perfect place for illness to hide. Some doctors even believed demons entered through the ear during sleep. And if you heard ringing or felt pressure, it was a sign that something unclean was trapped within. That's why they blew smoke inside. They believed smoke would dry the fluids, purify the air, and smoke out the devil. Literally, it was called fumigation, and it was deadly serious. Of course, there were no microscopes, no bacteria, no understanding of nerves, infections, or eardrums. They were doing what they thought worked, and sometimes it did, because while the supernatural theories were wrong, the smoke itself could have a strange effect. The herbs they used, especially tobacco and sage, have antimicrobial properties. Warm smoke might have eased pressure, softened wax, or numbed pain. Not because of magic, but because heat and herbs do affect the body. It was part ritual, part guesswork, part real plant chemistry. And the people believed in it desperately, because if your hearing faded back then, your entire life changed. No one had hearing aids. There were no support systems. To lose your hearing in medieval society was to become isolated, vulnerable. So when someone told you there was a cure, even one involving burning plants and blowing smoke into your body, you said anything to hear again. Asterisk, asterisk. Imagine you're in a small medieval village. It's cold, quiet. The wind howls outside your wooden home. Inside, a fire crackles low, casting shadows across the walls, and you're in pain. Your ear is hot, throbbing. You can't hear clearly from one side. Everything sounds distant, foggy, like the world is behind a curtain. There's no hospital nearby, but the local healer has been called. He arrives, carrying a leather pouch full of dried herbs, a bundle of reeds, a hollowed pipe, and a candle. He sits by your bed, examines your ear with a look of concern, then mutters the diagnosis: cold. Damp has taken root, or worse, a wind spirit is trapped inside. No time to waste. He places sage and tobacco leaves into a shallow bowl. He grinds them gently, adds a few drops of wine to awaken the healing fire. He sets them alight, the herbs smoldering in a slow, fragrant curl. Then he lifts a narrow clay tube, presses one end to your outer ear, and slowly, steadily out smoke inside. Not hard, not deep, just a soft stream of warm, scented air. You feel the heat first, a strange warmth, different than fire. Then a fullness, pressure, like something old is being stirred. Inside you, he stops, waits, then does it again. 3 times, he speaks words, sometimes Latin, sometimes a prayer, sometimes nothing at all. In some places, healers chanted. In others, they whispered secrets only passed down through family. There were rituals of silence where the room had to remain completely quiet, because the smoke was believed to carry the illness voice out of the body. If interrupted, the cure could fail. Some believed that if the smoke turned black, it meant the devil in the ear was resisting. If the smoke turned sweet, the illness was breaking apart. No 2 healers agreed exactly, but they all believed in the power of smoke. And strangely enough, the patient often felt better afterward. Why? Let's pause. Modern science tells us a few interesting things. First, the herbs they used were potent. Sage, rosemary, mugwort, and especially tobacco all contain compounds that affect inflammation and bacteria. Second, warm smoke can loosen hardened earwax, helping relieve pressure and blocked hearing. And third, and maybe most powerful of all, there's the placebo effect, the simple act of being cared for, of someone treating your pain with intention, can release chemicals in your brain that dull discomfort and reduce fear. So even though medieval doctors were wrong about demons and spirits, they weren't entirely wrong about the power of ritual. It worked sometimes, enough to keep the practice alive for centuries. But it wasn't always safe. Too much heat burned EARDRUMS. Too much pressure burst membranes, toxic herbs. Serious damage. Some records show people losing their hearing permanently from improper fumigation. Others developed worse infections when ash or residue entered the canal. But to the people of that time, the risk was worth it. Because doing nothing meant isolation, despair, even madness. Hearing loss was deeply misunderstood and often feared. Some believed those who couldn't hear were cursed. Others thought they were losing their soul. Smoke was hope. Invisible form, you could watch it swirl, rise, vanish. Like illness leaving the body. There's something poetic about that, isn't there? Even now, in a world full of science, we still light candles when we pray. We burn incense when we grieve. We breathe steam when we feel congested. Some part of us still believes in what we can't see, in warmth, in ritual, in the unseen journey of healing. Asterisk, asterisk, over time, the world changed. Empires fell. Languages died. Science rose. And slowly, the old ways of healing, the rituals, the chants, the smoke began to fade. Doctors began studying. Anatomy, books replaced beliefs. Microscopes revealed what smoke never could by the 18th century. The practice of blowing smoke into ears was mostly gone from Europe's medical books, replaced by irrigation methods, metal tools, and eventually sterile techniques. But it didn't disappear everywhere. In rural pockets in Ireland, in Eastern Europe, in parts of Asia, some families still practiced it well into the early 1900s. In fact, there are reports of grandmothers warming rolled tobacco in cloth, placing it in their child's ear to soothe an ache, not unlike the onion remedy we've talked about before. And here's something even stranger. In Victorian England, there was a device called a smoke enema kit. Yes, really, designed to blow smoke into various parts of the body, including the ear. It sounds absurd now, even dangerous. But back then, they truly believed it worked. That smoke carried cleansing energy and makes someone whole again. And perhaps, in some ways, it did. Because there's something powerful about believing you're healing. Something powerful in the rhythm of care. In the feeling that someone is tending to you. That your pain is seen and that something is being done. We may not blow smoke into ears anymore, but think about what we still do. We use steam, warm oil, white noise machines. We light sage to clear bad energy. We sip herbal teas with names like cleanse, purify, restore. But the instinct to care, to comfort, to heal gently hasn't. In fact, even the idea of sound affecting the body has made a comeback. Modern studies now show that low frequency vibrations like gentle humming or drumming can affect brainwaves, calm anxiety, and even stimulate healing in the nervous system. So maybe, just maybe, those old healers were onto something. Maybe the ritual was wrong in detail, but right in spirit. Maybe healing is never really about smoke or tools. It's about intention, presence, time, the time to slow down, to pay attention, to let warmth enter a place where pain once lived. Just like this moment now, as we finish this ear cleaning, as the blockage clears, as sound returns, you might feel a shift, not just in your ear, but in your mind. Because when you clear out something stuck, whether it's wax or fear or an old idea, you make space for something better, something clearer. And now, maybe you understand why those medieval doctors did what they did, why they believed in the smoke, why they risked the strange. They weren't fools. They were trying to help, trying to heal, trying to give someone the gift of sound in a world full of silence. So tonight, as you drift off or move on with your day, carry that thought with you, that even the strangest remedies come from the same place, a desire to feel whole, to feel better, to feel heard. Good night, and thank you for listening.